Alright, this is Chapter 6, Lesson 3, Solve Equations with Rational Coefficients. So, a rational number, we remember, is any number that we can write as a fraction. Okay. Of the form a over b. So, this is dealing with rational coefficients. That means any rational number. So, that includes decimals, whole numbers, fractions, negative numbers, anything like that. Okay? We're still dealing with only one-step equations. We haven't gotten into more than that. So just one-step equations. Now you're just adding on fractions and decimals. Okay? So decimal coefficients. If the coefficient is a decimal, divide each side by the coefficient. Okay? Or multiply depending on where it is. For fraction coefficients, recall that two numbers with a product of 1 are called blank blank or blank. If the coefficient in a multiplication equation is a fraction, multiply each side by the reciprocal of the coefficient. So in those blanks, you're going to write multiplicative inverse or reciprocals. So recall that two numbers with a product of 1 are called multiplicative inverses or reciprocals. If the coefficient in a multiplication equation is a fraction, you multiply each side by the reciprocal of the coefficient. Alright, so let's take a look at a couple of examples. Alright, so the first example I have says solve 16 equals 0.025 n. Check your solution. So, when I'm doing this, again, I'm using the exact same thing that I've learned before with adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. I'm looking at this, 0.25n, that tells me I've multiplied. In order to reverse this, I use my reverse or my inverse operation. So opposite of multiplication is division, so I divide both sides by 0.25 because that's what it is attached to the n. Okay? So 16 divided by 0.25 is 64. 0.25n divided by 0.25 is n. So I can always substitute that back in, which I do. 0.25 times 64 is indeed. Giants coach agreed to buy ice cream for all the team members. That was really nice of Giants coach. Okay? See, ice cream cones are $2.40 each. Write and solve an equation to find how many cones the coach can buy with $30. So, ice cream cones are $2.40. We're going to use a variable, N, I, C, whatever you want to use for cones. Okay, so 2.4 or 2.40 if you're going to be technical, n equals $30 because 30 was how much the coach has to spend. So I divide both sides by 2.4. 30 divided by 2.4 is 12.5. Now, since we're buying ice cream cones, and I got a decimal in my answer, 12.5, can you buy half of an ice cream cone? No. You cannot buy half of an ice cream cone, so I cannot buy 13 of them. I can only buy 12 ice cream cones. So make sure that you're actually paying attention to the problem. So if it's talking about ice cream cones, you can't buy half of an ice cream cone, so you have to round down. So the number of ice cream cones must be a whole number. There's enough money for 12 ice cream cones. Okay? Hopefully there are no more than 12 girls on the team. So, a couple of other examples that we have. Okay, this one says solve 3/4 x equals 12/20. 12 over 20. So I have 3/4 x. So I'm dealing with a fractional coefficient. So, and I'm multiplying, but remember, in order to multiply, I have to do the opposite to get x by itself, so that means dividing. So I'm doing 3/4 divided by 3/4. But remember, when I divide fractions, I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. We remember all that? That's a lot of math terms, okay? So remember, 3/4 x, okay? In order to multiply, I have to divide. Okay, so that's the inverse of multiplication is division. So 3/4 divided by 3/4, remember, that's a complex fraction, so I need to multiply by the reciprocal. When I'm dividing fractions, we keep change flip, or multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm multiplying by 4/3, which is the reciprocal. Multiply 12/20 by 4/3 as well. When I do that and simplify, I get 4/5. You can double check, substituting 4/5 back in 3/4 fourths times 4/5. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 5 is 20. Valerie needs 2/3 yard of fabric to make each hat for the school play. Write and solve an equation to find how many hats she can make with 6 yards of fabric. So 2/3 n, or 2/3 times your amount of hats, equals 6. So again, I need to multiply by the reciprocal. So 2/3 times 3 halves gives me n by itself. 6 times 3 halves is 9, so she can make 9 hats. Again, you can double check, substituting 9 back in. 9 times 2 is 18, divided by 3 does give you 6. Alright, there are a couple of try problems up below. I want you to go ahead, pause the video, try them out, and when you're done, we'll go over the answers together. Alright, now that you've had a chance to try out the try problems, let's go over the answers together. So the first one I have says, suppose the ice cream cones cost $2.80 each. How many ice cream cones could the coach buy with $42? So, again, we have $2.80 times the cost of the cone. So one cone is $2.80, and I want to know how many cones you can buy with $42. So right now I'm dealing with multiplication. Opposite of multiplication is division. I need to divide both sides by $2.80. So 42 divided by $2.80 is 15. So the coach can buy 15 cones. Coach can buy 15 cones. Okay. So if they ask you to explain something on something like the PSSAs or the CBTs, make sure you write everything out. Okay. Don't just use C. They don't know what C means. Solve the equation 6.4 equals 0.8 m, then check your solution. So, again, I'm multiplying here, so I need to do the opposite, which is dividing. So 6.4 equals 0.8 m, divide both sides by 0.8, because that's what is attached to the m. 6.4 divided by 0.8 is 8. Okay. Then it said I need to check my solution, so I substitute the 8 back in for m. 6.4, and I want to know if this equals 6.4. Okay. 0.8 times 8 does give me 6.4. So we are good. Alright, my next try problem says solve the equation -3/4 x equals 9. So again, we've talked about this when we're dealing with fractions. When we're multiplying, we need to divide, which is really like saying we're multiplying by the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse. So I need to take 4/3 times -3/4 x equals 9 times -4/3. Okay. When I do this, this cancels out and gets me a positive x. Nine times 4 is 36 divided by 3, but I can recognize that I can actually simplify this. So 3 times -4 gives me -12. It'll give me the same answer. 9 times 4 is 36, divided by 3 is -12. Okay, so x equals -12. I double check this, substituting it back in. -3/4 times 12, and I want to know if this equals -12. Okay, so again, I can see 4 and 12, I can simplify. So -3 times -3 is +9, which indeed is correct. Alright, 3/4 of the fruit in the refrigerator are apples. There are 24 apples in the refrigerator. How many pieces of fruit are in the fridge? So 3/4 of the fruit in the fridge are apples. So 3/4 of all the fruit are apples. I know that there are 24 apples, so that is my equation. 3/4 of the fruit equals the apples, which is 24. Okay? Again, we're multiplying by a fraction, so we need to divide, which means we need to do the multiplicative inverse. So I do 4/3 times 3/4 f equals 24 times 4/3. Okay. This cancels out, and I'm left with f. 24 times 4/3, again 3 simplifies with 24, and I get 8 over 1. 8 times 4 is 32. So there are 32 pieces of fruit in the fridge. And that is the end of Chapter 6, Lesson 3.